First thing on the agenda is approve the last minutes. Everybody had a chance to look them over. Once you have, I'll be entertaining a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same with the approval of claims.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
Motion by Tim,
I'll second it.
second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? First thing on the agenda, I think that we already kind of talked about this already in regards to the alley activation program. I think I sent this out. It's on the board pack also as far as council members as to, we presented this to the Board of Public Works as far as closing out portions of a couple alleys in town for safety reasons, if nothing else. They unanimously approved the recommendation to give to the council for your approval. So I don't know if you have any questions. I'll be glad to answer them for that. If not, I would entertain a motion to introduce an ordinance for that.
Question I have is what type of barrier are you looking at? Something permanent or something can be removed in case we have emergency vehicles?
It would be permanent. We're only talking about one building length, so obviously for emergency purposes, I think it's to have access front and back. So. Any other questions?
I haven't personally had a chance to discuss it with any of the downtown merchants. Have they been notified that this is being considered? Is it something that?
The only one we notify were the people that would be affected by the alleyway. The rest of them, basically, it's the situation where we were more concerned with the safety as much as anything else. And so that's the reason we just make sure those people are on board because it's right next to their building. They're very concerned with the fact that people walking out of their buildings, car coming up the alley and not slowing down and things of this kind. And with the way the alley activation program is being processed, the way we're going to start working on the back of that 4th Street alley there also, just makes sense to go ahead and do that at the present time so we get ready to do that. So,
For the time being, what will because right now aren't like delivery trucks pulling in there to make deliveries downtown? They're not using it that way.
no, very seldom will ever pull in there. They're still parking on the street. So, I mean, it's one of those things we got to start somewhere, and that basically gets us started in doing that program we're talking about with the lights, things of this kind of thing to do. And so while we've got the capability to do that, now's the time to do that. So
It's definitely a safety factor because you said pedestrians walk right through, car pop out. It's a car pop out or vice versa.
Seeing how it's a very public thing, I assume we would just introduce it, and then we could hold it over for public comment if needed.
You could introduce it tonight and then hold it over for a second reading at a subsequent meeting. Or you could wait, you could also suspend rules and adopt the same night you introduce it. It's up to you.
2021-26. My personal feelings is I'd like to introduce it and hold it over.
The motion?
Yeah, let's make it a motion.
I'll second it.
That it gives us a chance to hear any feedback.
I think that we should present it, and then if there's a lot of feedback or pushback, I don't think so. I think they understand what the premise is. This is a very short distance. I mean, this room's almost longer than that, isn't it?
yeah,
So, but I do think that we would introduce it.
I was looking behind like Mama T's area. It's gonna go all the way out there to behind the building. Is that what you're looking at right there? Instead of like right here?
well, see, this is where the new alleyway is going to go through here,
Okay.
which is why we bought Methodist Church parking lot, to start with. So once that gets in there, it's going to come out to here. But right now, it's going to actually not going to come all the way out until we get the road put in. It's going to be back here for the time being.
Okay. All right.
So there's a motion on the table to table it until the next meeting.
Or actually
Or
introduce
introduce
a number.
Introduce, and you seconded, and we didn't vote on it, right?
Right.
Right.
Tim said,
Who seconded it?
I did.
You did? Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Tim.
I second it, Jeff.
Opposed? we'll wait till next meeting.
That ordinance will be on file for the clerk treasurer's office for public to review for final adoption.
The next thing I have is just basically getting permission from the council that we can apply for some grants for some renovations and some things we need to do for League Stadium. We were brought in by Region 15 yesterday. It had a new, basically it's a tourism type of thing, but I think our League Stadium qualifies for it. They seem to think it might qualify for some grants, but obviously we need to apply for those. And so we're putting together right now a list of things that we want to apply for. Some major things that obviously the city can't do by themselves sometimes. And so with your permission, I would like to go ahead and proceed with trying to get some grants for that, to do that.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah, I think the mayor brought it up and authority to make those applications and if appropriate.
I'll make a motion to approve the mayor seeking grants for that.
I have a second.
I'm second.
Second by Jose. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the list is an update from DuBois Strong, Mr. Bowles.
Hey, Ed.
I thank you guys for giving me a little time this evening. I had kind of we usually do just kind of an update of what we're doing and how we're doing it and how it relates to what you're doing. And I'll just kind of go through and if you have a question, just stop me.
Do you need what time's up?
Yeah, fun time's up. That's right. Just go, give me the cut sign. There you go. Hey, one of the things that we've been trying to focus a bit more on this year than we ever have is business attraction. We've had an unusual amount of activity on the business attraction side. I don't know if you all remember, but most of what we do when it comes to business attraction comes from the state level. It's through the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. They send out what they call requests for information, and a very common one is it's a company that is, and we never know the name of the company because they give the project some odd names, and I'll explain a bit more in a second. But what they do is they say, hey, we've got a company that's looking for 20 acres within 5 miles of an interstate. They're going to use this much water. They're going to use this much electrical. They're going to manufacture auto parts, and it's usually just that vague. And then they come back and say, well, the investment will be $42 million, and they're going to hire 900 people. Believe it or not, we had one with 900 people. We don't know where we're going to get 900 people, but it did seem to fit for us, and we did have some property. So that's a bad example, but I mean, that is one of the ways that we get those, and we get them fairly often. Most of them are looking for a building. By far and away, companies want to get into a building if a building is available. Fortunately for us, we have an incredible economy here, and we don't have any buildings. But on the downside, it keeps us from responding to a lot of the ones that are looking for buildings. So we obviously look for the ones that have property involved or property that we know that is available. So let me hit these two instances really quickly. One was a project called Project Jane. It was with the Huntingburg Airport, as a matter of fact. We worked with Travis on, and this is probably the most we're ever going to hear about. Usually they don't give you this much description, but it was a vertical takeoff electric powered airplane. We're like, okay. We didn't expect that kind of thing, but we did get a great cooperation and response from Travis as usual. He's a great guy to work with. So we put together the information they were looking for. And that one, believe it or not, had 900 jobs. Now, again, where we're going to get 900 people, I don't know, but we thought it did fit the airport, and it did fit something we felt like we should respond to. So again, I guess we'll clone 900 people or something. The other one we've done recently is a Project Lithium. It is a lithium, just what you think it would be. It's a battery maker. Thank goodness they didn't need 900 employees. It was one that fit very well in some land that the Root family has, old mobile property area that is across from their old mobile manufacturing facility, essentially, just slightly north. They have about 72 acres there that we work with them on when the project's fit. So anyway, those are just a couple of examples, and we've done about 7 this year. And I know when I was talking to the county council, I was going to use the number 7. It's not a big number, don't get me wrong, but these do take a lot of time and a lot of effort and gathering a lot of information. And 7 is probably about 2 or 3 times more than we normally deal with, because they're usually looking for a building. And since there are no buildings available, they've started to do a lot more land search. So anyway, I think I beat that subject to death. So we'll move on here. One of the things we're really proud of is a group that it's a collaborative group that's been started. It's the Du Bois County Entrepreneurs and Innovators. That's a group that includes the Jasper Chamber, the Du Bois County Chamber, Elevate Ventures, the Indiana Small Business Development Center, Du Bois Strong, obviously, Radius Indiana, the mayor here, and we've even drug this mayor in before. What this group does is, what we're trying to do is set a networking group of entrepreneurs. And I want to tell you, if this type of thing would not be possible had the groundwork not already been laid at Current Blend, because many of the people that we've contacted are former Current Blend people that have been there, worked there, and have moved on to other things. So I did want to give a shout out to Current Blend, because sometimes one of the difficult things when you're dealing with entrepreneurs is getting that networking going. And it's not gone well sometimes because people, they're independent. I'm busy, I'm trying to make a living, I'm working for myself, but we really feel like we've hit a good group this time. So we had about 50 people at the cultural center. So we're hoping to be able to move it around the county and be able to get that same kind of energy. So we'll see where this thing goes. But it's really meant just for networking, at least in the beginning. And we've talked about doing a pitch competition where if you're a small business and you're looking to start up and you're trying to get startup dollars, you do your elevator speech and you compete against other people's elevator speeches. And we think that's something we want to put on the burner coming up. So that's that group, and we're pretty excited about the beginning of it. Switching here, just a moment. Oh, we have a new employee. We had Amanda Smith, who worked as the marketing specialist for us for about 6 years. Very tough to say goodbye to Amanda because she was very good. She was just awesome to work with. But I think we've hit upon another great person that fits the Amanda Smith role and maybe can be even bigger and better than Amanda Smith. Samantha Knees Gray is definitely a tremendous add for us. She's a 20-hour-a-week person, but she gives us much more than 20 hours a week as far as expertise. She helps us with an awful lot of different things. And one of the things you can imagine is these business attraction type things that she works with us on maps and labeling maps and changing things and so forth. So it's been really good. She just started on July 19th. One of the other things I'd like to talk about real quickly is something that's just happened. We are blessed, I guess you would say, to be members of 2 regional talent groups. We have the group for ROI, and they are the, I guess you would call it, one regional talent group. And then we have another one, and it's a Southern Indiana group that I think is really fits us up just a little bit better because we share the same workforce with these counties. And the counties that you can imagine, we're talking, us, obviously, Pike, Perry, Orange, Crawford, and Spencer. Share the workforce, share the need to upgrade talent. So we did get that talent designation. There was a celebration just on yesterday, and the celebration was great, but now the work begins because we've got a long way to go on. When the state gives you this designation, then you have to check a lot of boxes to get the designation. Ultimately, they're going to hold you accountable to some goals. And there's a lot of them, so I won't go into them now, but it's still very valuable because it keeps all of us on the same page and working toward how do we skill up, how do we get better at what we do as far as supplying employers with people that they can put to work. So that's, I think, a very valuable group. The other thing that's probably consumed more time than I ever thought it would, and you may have heard of this, it's called READY. It's the Regional Economic Acceleration Development Initiative. Whew, sounds like a state program, right? But it's that long. In short, you may remember a program which was called Regional Cities. Well, Regional Cities was great in some respects if you had a regional city that wanted to partner with you. In our case, and I'm not disparaging Evansville, but Evansville had counties around them that they partnered with. And we were kind of on the outside looking in, along with several small rural counties. And one of the difficulties with it is you had to have the population of 200,000. Well, as you can imagine, and it takes a lot of the counties in southern Indiana to get up to 200,000. And again, you had to have that regional cities connection. So what they wanted to come up with on the state level was something similar to regional cities. And long story short with this, there are projects that you could submit to, and we chose to work with ROI, the Regional Economic Initiative Group out of Bloomington. We chose to work with that group, and with that, we've been going through the process, which is of course long and arduous, but the good thing is there were 270 projects uploaded to the ROI website. And I unfortunately can't tell you how many came from Du Bois County, although I'm talking to Bill, we did have the vast majority come from our county. I'm supposed to get a report. I haven't gotten that yet, so I can be able to say, hey, we had 58 or 68 or whatever, but I don't know at this point. The good thing with this is the more projects you put in, the more opportunity you might have to get them funded. This is a complicated matching formula that I won't even go into. The good thing is we feel we have a very strong role in ROI, so we really feel like we have the opportunity to be able to get some funding for a variety of things. We'll see how it goes in the process. I'm on the Talent and Business Attraction Committee. I'm also on the Digital Inclusion Committee. Bill is on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Neil Elkins is on the Housing Committee. So we do have pretty good representation on those different focus groups or different committees. So anyway, it's probably as much as you want to know about READY. My last thought, two last thoughts. The Enterprise Loan Fund. Don't forget us. If you have someone who's talking to you about starting a small business and says, hey, you know, I'm really trying to figure this out, please send them our way. We have the Enterprise Loan Fund, plus we work with a Small Business Development Center. We also work with Elevate Ventures. We work with a lot of folks, and we're very lucky to have that network. So if you run into somebody, your neighbor, or somebody you're meeting in church, please send them our way. Obviously, if they're in the city limits of Huntingburg, you have an enterprise loan fund, so we want to drive them your way. But if they're on the outside of Huntingburg, send them our way, because that's how we've been doing the lines of demarcation. But we definitely want to be able to loan the dollars that we have, and we have money to loan. Last thought, we have our annual meeting coming up on September 16th. You're probably getting your inboxes full of invitations from us, but if you can attend, we'd love to have you. Thank you very much, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Ed?
I know that's a lot, but I kind of do this kind of throw it all out there thing. So
Appreciate it, Ed. Thank you.
thank you very much, and thank you for your support. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, you're up next.
Yes, last meeting, we introduced the flood hazard area ordinance regulations, ordinance for flood hazard area regulations. That was ordinance number 2021, you introduced it, 2021-24. you introduced it. And again, it provides regulations for properties, improvements that are located in flood hazard areas as determined by flood hazard maps, FEMA flood hazard maps. It was in our zoning code, almost identical, same ordinance. We removed it from the zoning code, UDO, so it could be more easily amended. And so it would be a standalone ordinance if you choose to adopt it. And you could adopt it tonight since you introduced it last week. It's been, of course, you've had copies of it for about a month now, and I think it's been, well, Tom's had for public inspection for over a month too.
It's the board's pleasure.
I move to approve. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion be approved to final adoption.
I'll second.
Second by Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Where?
Aye.
Yvonne.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
Bounce.
Aye.
Kissel.
Aye.
5 ayes. No nays.
Who next?
Uh,
Well, kind of.
Actually, we have for us tonight, you have in your board packet the proposed ordinance, a bond ordinance, and ordinance that would authorize the issuance of taxable economic development bonds for the Farbest project. And we have here tonight representatives of Farbest and the legal counsel to give a little synopsis of the project that will be considered for financing with economic development bonds. So I turn it over to you, John.
Well, first of all, thank you all for allowing us to come tonight, come before you. And I'll introduce myself. I think I know everybody here, but Ted Sager, president of Farbest. And it's really good to be back, you know, I don't know, about every 4 years or so, it seems like anymore. And so we've got some really good news and investments and things of that nature. And I'm going to introduce Jared Morrison, our CFO, who's going to take you through a presentation. And we can get as detailed on this as you would like. But this journey started about 4 or 5 years ago when you all helped us out back then in the renovation of our Huntingburg facility. And not part of this presentation, but a sincere thank you for that, because the automation that we put in back then really, really helped us retain employees and make the jobs easier and safer, especially through this last year and a half when COVID was all around, you know, everywhere here. And having those jobs automated, it kept us going in both of our facilities. And in general, the Farbest business is about as good now as it's ever been. Okay, so a general statement. I think somebody asked me earlier how things are going. But a big thank you for what you helped us to accomplish, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago in the first set of automation. This request is kind of the final step in that long journey of renovating Huntingburg. So with that, I'll introduce Jared here, and he can go through the whole project.
Great. All right, technology works, so that's good. As Ted mentioned, Jared Morrison, Chief Financial Officer of Farbest. It's great to be here tonight. So I'm going to take you through a quick presentation. As Ted mentioned, we'll go through some of the history and the background of this project. Many of you are familiar with it. You were around when this began. Talk a little bit about the benefits of the process changes we'll be making, and then specifically the operational plan and some of the investment breakdown to help everyone understand what we're trying to accomplish here. Ted kind of mentioned this, but just a quick request on a summary and the background is we're recommending the same recommendation we made to our board, an investment of $32.5 million in capital to complete our renovation of the Huntingburg processing plant. This includes some automation in our wing deboning area and our front half fillet area. So automated equipment in those areas. It includes a 22,000 square foot addition on I think, the west side of our plant. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. The background Ted mentioned a lot, but I'll hit on a little bit of the background is the Huntingburg processing plant was constructed in 1969. The boning operation began in 1986. The second shift in distribution center was took place in 2007. The journey really began on this type of phase, as Ted mentioned, in 2016, when FarBest leadership team decided to dedicate itself to continuing to focus on the renovation of the Huntingburg facility and bring those technologies that we learned and implemented in Ben Sims, which was the plant we constructed in 2012. Since 2016, we've invested $46.7 million in the Huntingburg operations to date. And as Ted mentioned, during that time frame, we did come forward and he helped support that 2017-18 gas done project that we came with, which was an estimated investment of about $21.7 million. The good news is we certainly don't come to the city every time we have an investment. We try to come to you when it feel like it makes sense for both parties. On the financials, just completely transparent on our financials. This is a longer term payback item. It's about the future of FarBest. It's 11 to 12 year payback. So it's not a real quick payback item, but it certainly is the right thing to do to help prepare us for the future. As far as the request goes, what we're asking for is city participation and support, just like you did in our previous project, Ted mentioned. And what that means is an amendment of the existing TIF and expanding those benefits for this project through February of 2034 and approving the issuance of the new bonds. We'll go through all of this, but I did want to highlight $46.7 million that we mentioned that we invested since 2016. That all started in 2016 and 17 when we said, hey, let's start and let's put in a drive. So we invested about $1.2 million in a new south drive to make sure we have the flow into the plant to prepare for some of these large investments we're going to make. And then in the 2018 timeframe, you can see the details where we have the CO2 gas done project highlighted and the other items in that area. Obviously, the gas done project and the road fire evisceration area were the big ones. 2019 and 20, our focus was to come a little further along into our facility up the stream, and there were some good automation projects continuing to make jobs easier and safer. So there was an automated cut-up machine in our dark deboning area that we did for about $4.9 million, and automated evisceration equipment for $5.7 million. And then finally, there's a big refrigeration and engine room and chillers expansion to help upgrade that equipment. That did require some additional square footage, and it really helped make sure that we could realize our capacity and just upgrade that entire system and prepare for this final phase of the renovation. We did a few things in 2021 as well that were really about preparing for this project, such as we have a lagoon on the backside of our plant that we filled in to prepare for this building that will be on an area where a lagoon for wastewater treatment that we were no longer using, and as well as a roof. I won't go through this. I think the only bullet point that's relevant here is FarBest has invested about $72.3 million in capital in the last 4 years. And the good news for the community is 81% or $58.9 million was related to FarBest students. We'll talk a lot about the benefits, but I will go through them. This is about making jobs easier and safer, automating the most difficult jobs and resulting in more technical abilities. It does reduce labor as a result of automation by about 22 positions, but we have more than 22 positions open and are unable to fill them in our plan. So this really is also about helping us combat the challenges with having difficulty filling some of the roles in our plan. So, on the benefits side, it improves our yield in specific areas such as breast meat, wing meat, and white trims. And the bright spot is this helps us retain and protect the 640 jobs that we have projected with an estimated payroll of 30.5. There are a few things that I want to highlight over the last few years that we've done that I think are bright spots to our employees, been great bright spots to our employees, things that have benefited our community. Outside of our normal inflationary increases that we provide our employees and our plans, there's been an additional $1.55 in wage added in 2018. Help continue to provide an opportunity for us to provide good working conditions for our employees and help attract and retain them. Then outside of normal inflationary increases during COVID earlier, while that was going on, we provided $100 per week for all employees. When the peak of that was going on, with a lot of uncertainty, we did provide all employees for our best $100 a week. For a period of time, we were providing a $2 per hour benefit for Farm Best Foods employees in our processing plants. That was later adjusted to $1 per hour, and just recently that was made permanent. Another important benefit is through these investments, Harvest becomes more valuable to the turkey industry, with our investments resulting in a more stable workforce. And as Ted mentioned, these investments that we have made have surely paid off and allowed us to be a reliable source of turkey for the world. And we have been able to help out other turkey companies within the country that have needed help. We do have a few pictures. Not all of you have toured the Huntingburg processing plant, but I've got a few pictures of just what some of these investments were in 2018 and 19. What you're looking at is our gas stunning operation. There's a new building there at the top left-hand corner. It just shows some of the new automated equipment that we added in that area that I spoke about in that time. I talked about 2019 and 20 that we added some automated cut-up machines, specifically in our dark deboning area. And that's what you're looking at the top left corner. Down here at the bottom, you're looking at our upgraded refrigeration areas that we talked about, and putting on some refrigeration equipment on the roofs there. That's the lagoon that we talked about that we filled in and prepared for our future building that we spoke about for this project. And this is kind of a highlight as well. It hasn't just been about investing in capital. It's also been about investing in things that are going to make our employees' lives better, such as a cafeteria in our Huntingburg area. Obviously, we had a room place for employees to eat, but we brought in that cafeteria and its staff so employees can get something while they're doing it, make their lives a little easier. What this next section is just Huntingburg versus our current process. So I'll go through these quickly, but these are just images of Huntingburg on the left side, and then on the right side, the proposed, and those are images of the Vincennes operation. So you're looking at our chiller hang area, and then you're looking at the proposed. Not a major change in this area, but what you're going to see consistent throughout our images is you're going to see in the current state, a lot of employees are kind of on elevated platforms working, and then in the future, we're going to see them more streamlined, working on one level. That allows us to communicate with all the employees, make sure we're all on the same page. So that's one example of that. In this next area, this is our front half delay automated equipment that we're talking about. Left side is our current area. You can see we have employees on two different levels, a lot of stuff going on in our current breast department area. But then in the proposed in the future, we've got some of the automated equipment there that we talked about. And again, this is our Vincennes operation. You can see it's a more automated area. Jobs are easier, safer, just going to be a better experience and even better quality for us. Finally, wing deboning, again, left side, Huntingburg. You can see elevated platforms, and what we're currently doing is manually cutting the wing meat off the turkeys as they go by on the line. That's what you're looking on the far left side. And you can see the areas are pretty tight, so it is hard for us to interact with our employees and stay in touch with them, coach them. But on the right side, you can see we do have some elevation on platforms, but what those employees are doing is feeding whole wings into an automated piece of equipment. So more technical jobs should be a good, very good situation. So quick breakdown. 32.5 million is our estimate for the full project. And how that breaks down between personal property and real property is 17.7 million in personal property and 14.8 million in real property and buildings. And then the construction timeline, we are right here in August with our meeting here with you all. Our plan would be in September for our contractor to mobilize. September 2021. In July of 2022, the building would be complete. But then we've got get the equipment that we need in the building. This building is adjoining to our existing building. So that's going to take a little time. And then in September of 2022, that's when we would shut down the plant for a few days and bring all this together and go live. This is just an image of the future state of the building. So the shaded color, kind of the tan color is our new addition, and what you're looking at is the west side of our building, close to where that lagoon was. That's would be the new addition that we talked about earlier. Okay. So that is all that I have. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But I just wanted to provide you a little bit of texture as to what we're trying to accomplish, and we really appreciate your support in the past, but we also appreciate your support and consideration on this future project as well.
Jared mentioned that in the past project that y'all did with us, and we partnered on, and I mentioned that it really helped us this last year. It not only helped us at Bardas, our own turkey growers, our own customers, but I can tell you may see strange looking trucks coming in from other areas of the country. Other turkey companies have struggled in processing their own live turkeys in this last year. And for nearly a year, we've been taking loads and loads of live turkeys every day from a company in South Carolina. And for probably the past 4 or 5 months, from a different company in Missouri, Arkansas area. But they're struggling with finding employees. So we're helping them out to the point where in Huntingburg, it's almost about 2 hours a day of extra work for our people, which our people really like. As Jared mentioned, their wages have been going up. So it's a real benefit. And so that has really helped. What this does is set us up, and I've probably been saying this last time I was here, maybe 5 years ago. It's like we're poised for growth. You know, we haven't passed this, building the plant in Vincennes in 2014, in 2015 and 16, our volume really went up. Sales volume, pounds produced in these two communities. In the last couple of years, it's been, I'll call it almost relatively flat for our own production. It's been intentional. We've been concentrating our capital on the renovation of Huntingburg. A year from now in September, as Jared points out, we will have 2 of the most automated, most modern turkey processing plants in the country. At that point, most efficient, I would say, as well, and from a cost perspective. We will, at that point, be poised for growth again. one of our drawbacks has always been in these local communities is finding enough people to have the full second shift or something like that. And Ed tells me he's gonna bring in a company and add 900, I don't know if I heard 7 jobs or 900 jobs.
Either way, we don't.
It don't matter.
Yeah, I welcome that, and we've got to compete against that. That's great, and that's what it's all about. But this is one way that the Farbest family, it's the only way that we think that we can compete, is make jobs safer, easier. Fortunately, I think for us, fewer jobs, but we're short close to 50 people right now. That just means we're going to be short 30 when we're done with this project. So we'll entertain questions.
I was here when you were here last time, and I've seen what you've done, and I think the wages have went up. The jobs have gotten better and more technical, I think, out there. The wages have gone up, obviously. I see your billboards along the highway right down here. Wages are way up in the area, so that's good. So automating this will even lead that direction even more, I assume, as they become more technical.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. And they have what maintenance positions and, it's lead positions as opposed to less manual, unsophisticated labor.
I'd like to thank you guys for investing in us, bringing your jobs to us. We appreciate that.
It's a really good community. As you know, we've been here a long time, so.
I'd like, maybe someone could explain a little better, just from my understanding. We're using some TIF funds to participate in this project.
So what they're requesting is the city would authorize the issuance of city economic development bonds. They're actually going to be taxable bonds because Farbest, the developer, is going to buy those bonds. They're going to hold the bonds. And the debt service on those bonds will be funded by the TIF money that's generated in the 400 West, the county portion of the 400 West economic development area. That's because all these improvements are going to be located in the county side. The city has no liability on these bonds. The only liability it has is to apply the revenue, the increment, the 400 West increment in the county side to the debt service on the bonds. To the extent if it would be insufficient to service the debt, the bondholder just loses out because they're holding the bonds. So this bond ordinance that you're asked to introduce tonight, not pass, but just introduce, would authorize the issuance of those bonds, would also authorize the pledging of the TIF revenue from the county, the 400 West economic development area. Those revenues would be pledged in parity with the outstanding bonds. Remember, you authorized bonds back in 2017. And so those also were being serviced by the increments, the TIF revenue from this economic development area. So that's when Jared said we're asking that you amend your TIF district. We're not really amending the district, but we're adding to the pledge of those TIF revenues. We're not extending the term any of that TIF district. It will expire in February of 2034, and that's when this bond will mature and be paid off. But before you do the final adoption, you're being asked to introduce it tonight. Before you do the final adoption, the Economic Development Commission has to hold a public hearing, which they've scheduled and have noticed for August 17, next Tuesday night. And that gives the public a chance to comment on the proposed financing. The Economic Development Commission needs to find that this is an economic development project that will promote economic development in the area, and it will be to the public welfare and benefit by either creating job opportunities or retaining job opportunities, and that there's no adverse competitive effect. Issuing these bonds would not have an adverse competitive effect on other similar industries in the area. in our area.
In the district.
Right, and so if those findings are met, then the Economic Development Commission will, after that hearing, will make a recommendation that you give final adoption to this bond ordinance. The bond ordinance that you're introducing tonight also approves the form of the trust indenture, which would administer the bond funds and the financing documents that are necessary to sell the bonds to the developer. So that's essentially, and the limit of the bonds is $1 million. Now, obviously, the project is much more than that, as they've described, it's over $32 million. But based upon calculations of what the TIF revenues will support, they believe it will support $1 million bond issue. And so that's what's being asked to be issued in the form of economic development bonds for this project.
In addition,
No, just $1 million. And they're funding the rest of that, 32 million and a half, with other funds.
So I'd say this, Steve, just to be clear, the city has no risk of these bonds, and Far Best is spending, is gonna pay for all the costs, for the fees and stuff for the city to participate. And Far Best is taking a very conservative approach, not asking for extension of this period for 25 years, not asking for a larger amount of funding, but for some assistance, you know, for the extended time to 2034. So it's taking a very conservative approach and not impacting the city's finances for the tax dollars that will receive when the bonds pay off and to cover the expenses. So I think, you know, in addition to the fact Jared and Ted mentioned before, you know, they've not come to the well every time and asked for participation by the city at this final large stage of the project. They're coming in and asking for some really a small amount of help to take this project over the final hurdle, because it is a longer payback. They're not going to receive immediate results in the profitability of this. As Ted mentioned, they are building for the future capacity. They are laying the foundation, you know, for Far Best to be successful, you know, another 40 years in this community, making it a nationally recognized producer. So, I mean, the small amount is that, to Phil's point, there are some meetings that happen. To your question, it's a very conservative, risk-free approach that they're asking the city to participate in.
That is true. There's absolutely no liability. And as Bill's indicated, all costs are being underwritten by Far Best. Our bond counsel costs, their own counsel costs, the financial advisor costs, they're all being paid for from the bond proceeds, which are being purchased by Far Best.
So we just need a motion to introduce. Is that correct?
We got a number.
Introduce.
we got a number here?
2127.
Motion to introduce.
Motion made by Steve,
I'll second it.
second by Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's good. You don't need a roll call for that, do you?
Not to introduce.
Congratulations. That's the next step.
Thank you. We got to advance.
You moved from kindergarten to first grade, is that
I don't know.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your help in the community, though.
Thanks for your patience
Yes.
until we get to you guys tonight too, so.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Same here.
We'll be back.
Second motion.
I did.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank
Bill,
you.
thank you.
Sure.
Tom,
They've made you.
Tom, do you have anything? We got a lot of things going on Thursday.
Well, other than I get the budget stuff together, have a work pack, and also have you hard copy. Like the cash statement.
Yes.
That's, you said it's next Thursday? Is that right?
This Thursday.
This Thursday, oh.
2 days.
Yes.
Thursday at 9 and 1.
Last thing I have basically is just, it's just a matter of whether we want to accept or not. And that is the fact that I talked to Jane Hendrickson again, and she's very, I guess she would be very willing to donate that piece of property on the south side of Progress Parkway to the city. She doesn't need it. She can't use it for anything. It's really an unbuildable lot of some sort. It's not really something that the city can develop, although it's we might lose a little bit of tax dollars from it, which is very minimal. But I think there's some things that we could probably do with that if we get the youth involved and do some different things, where it'd be a rest station of some sort for walkers, whatever we can do. It's kind of right there by the walking trail that we're going to basically go over to Neas Park from. So I suggested that I bring it to you guys to see if you would be willing to accept the profit, and she's willing to give to us for that.
Which lots is it?
It's everything on the south side of Progress Parkway. And she owns-
Going out, I think it's.
It's on the left side going out, yeah.
All right.
So it'll start with back where the house lot is there, all the way up and then down the hill. And it's, as Paul told me, it's unbuildable because the terrain is so hilly. You couldn't do anything with it anyway. But my thought with that was the fact that we got the mayor's youth council starting up again. It might be something we can work a project with them and see if they want to do something with the property. I don't want to keep mowing it, things this time, maybe put some wildflowers or something on there, that type of thing. If we can't use the whole piece of property for something, but anyway, it's up to you guys whether we accept that.
So does that extend from, I guess from Chestnut around down to 12th Street?
12th Street?
Yes.
So there's a house on the.
Well, there's, from the back of their lot.
Yeah, it's all the way down.
It's a pretty good
And
size.
it's unbuildable.
Exactly.
And
I've got-
you had an acreage, or it's not even, I don't even think it's that.
I've got here's a map basically. It's just so you guys see it. Here's the house right here. Here's going towards 64. So it's that piece of property right along the curve.
She's maintaining that right now.
She's mowing it
And
right
we'll,
now.
we'll start maintaining it then.
We'll maintain it to the point until we can put something else there.
Till we find a way to minimize maintenance.
Exactly. So,
It is sort of a gateway to, I mean, it does create it can create an impression for people visiting our city and traveling through our
well,
city.
especially they're coming through the overpass and that way coming the other direction. I think.
You can put something there to,
Right. So it has some opportunities that we could do something with it. It just can't build something there. I mean,
do you even know what the tax dollars are at this point?
I was told it was less than $100, but I may be wrong. I mean, that's just what Paul told me, because it's basically, it's part of this other partial and it has to be separated out first. And if you separate it out first, it's very minimal as far as what the actual tax dollars are. I can't give you exact dollar amount. I don't know what it would be.
I'm just curious, but if we said no, and I'm not leaning that way, but if we said no, she would be required to maintain it forever.
Correct. Or until she sold to somebody.
Yeah. Or till she quit doing it.
Or until she could pay for it, yeah.
Start showing up in the.
Show up the next tax.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, once again, like I said before, I think that we could probably come up with some ideas to put something there without maintaining the whole piece of property, that type of thing. But once again, it's up to y'all whether we accept it or not.
Phil, is there some reason not to?
No, I mean, you know the pros and cons. The pros are, obviously, you'd have additional property to develop and use as you see fit. You can control it because it is along Progress Parkway. The cons are essentially that you're going to have to maintain it until you do find something to do with it.
It ain't much on taxes.
Yeah, I think
Pretty limited.
the taxes would be negligible because of the way the land lies. It's not, the bare land is not assessed for much.
Trees. Wooden trees.
So would the street department be in charge of taking over the?
Right now, they would, yes. And that was one of the things that Jason was questioning, the fact that why don't we put some wildflowers there?
He's getting a new ward, isn't he?
Yeah, maybe,
Oh, is he?
maybe. We'll see that. We'll see on Thursday.
He did ask if I want to board public.
Yes,
That's a
he
good
did.
course.
Yes.
I don't have any objection to it personally.
Look at the terrain, I don't have a good opinion, but I can't see that.
That's right behind Deering,
Yeah.
yeah.
The Deering one?
We'll take it free and then see what's up.
Well, anyway, I'll entertain a motion then to accept the property, and then I'll get back with her on that, but it's up to you guys.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Steve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by,
Jose can have it.
second by Jose. All in favor? Opposed? Awesome. Is there any other items to be brought up before the council? With not hearing anything,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn by Tim. He planned that time.
I guess I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.